everyone, and welcome back to the CLSR. And I'm your host, the counselor. Just want to let you people know you can get a hold of me at TheCounselor That's the counselor at gmail.com. Now, I want to say to all my wonderful listeners out there, let's continue to spread the word like the wise old bird and put your money where your mouth is so we can handle this biz. Take care.
Welcome to the CLSR, and I'm your host, the counselor. Today we're going to be talking about that people pleaser. Are you that people pleaser? Are you that individual that says yes to everything? Or you feel obligated to say yes to everything? Or you just do it? Sometimes you're doing things, it's almost like you're reading that person's mind. You're accommodating them. You're doing things before they even think of it because you want to please them. And you wonder, how did you become this individual? Or how did you get caught up like this? Why can't you help yourself? You're on autopilot. It's just who you've become. But see, now you're at a point where you're starting to think about these actions, and do you like yourself as a people pleaser? Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Well, if you are a yes man or woman, do you break your neck and bend over backwards to satisfy others, even if it leaves you feeling dissatisfied? You may be that people pleaser, that person that's go, 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 and yes, yes, yes. However, your attempt to be liked or accepted could be jeopardizing your own well being. So you might have to do some self evaluation and examine your own relational patterns to determine if you are a people pleaser. And you can learn ways to have healthier relationships because sometimes we get to the point where we don't necessarily want to be that people pleaser all the time. We want to stop and check ourselves because we know maybe someone's taking advantage or we're just not feeling good about that behavior anymore. We want to get more control. We want to jump off that ride to take control of our lives. But first, I think it's important for us to examine our feelings. Ask yourself if you often feel used. See, a key characteristic of people pleasers is being a pushover of sorts. You might say yes to virtually any favor asked by friends, family, or coworkers. Your tendency to do for others might cause you to feel taken advantage of. In some cases, friends and family are merely pleased that you are so willing to help out. In other cases, people may purposely exploit your kindness. Like a coworker asks you to help her finish her reports, and you are happy to oblige. The next time she asks if you could do it because she must leave work early that day. Over time, you do the reports more and more until it becomes your task, not hers. Question if you often feel resentful of others due to your penchant for holding back your own needs while overly meeting the demands of those around you. You start to feel resentful. People pleasers commonly work themselves tirelessly for others, but then end up getting angry or passive aggressive when those kinds of acts are never reciprocated. Many of you know what I'm talking about. Think about it. Your spouse asks you to pick up the dry cleaning. You say, sure. Your sister asks you to babysit her kids. You say, of course. Afterwards, you speak sarcastically about having to be a superhero in your family. You pretend to be just joking, but you're really not. Notice whether you feel a great deal of guilt. If you are a people pleaser, you probably feel guilt regularly. Deep down inside, a part of you knows that you don't really want to stay late after work as requested by your boss or attend your partner's office party. But you say yes anyway, then inwardly beat yourself up for having these feelings at all. Guilt might manifest as telling yourself that you are a bad parent, spouse, family member, or employee when you aren't happy to fulfill the demands of others. You should want to help out, you tell yourself. You may also feel guilt about neglecting your own true desires to please others. Spot signs of excessive stress. Pretending to want to do things that you don't comes with a price. Stress, anxiety, or depression. In a sense, the habit of people pleasing requires persistent lying to yourself. You pretend that you don't have needs. You pretend that you want to do this or that favor. As a result, you end up increasing the stress hormones in your body and compromising your health. Stress may show up as the following symptoms like headaches, fatigue, sleep disturbances, irritability, sadness, withdrawal from social connections, restlessness, or drug and alcohol use. If chronic stress is left untreated, it can develop into more serious conditions like anxiety or depression. Observing your interactions with others is very important. Think back on childhood patterns. Fear of rejection is at the core of people pleasing. And most commonly, people who engage in this habit developed it during their childhood in response to your parents' desires in your early years. You may have built patterns of relating that required putting others' wishes ahead of your own, thinking that this was the only way to feel accepted and loved. This behavior carried over to other relationships in your life, like your mother asked you to practice dance and you refused. As a result, she didn't speak to you for several days. You finally gave in and took up dance. Now, many years later, you are working in that career she chose for you and are dating the person she likes best. It's amazing how this transference occurs. Notice if you have been putting others ahead of yourself. A primary indicator of people pleasing is making the requests and the needs of those around you a priority. While there's nothing wrong with being there for your parents, your partner, your kids, your friends, and your boss, it becomes a problem if you're not seeing after your own health and well being. Have you abandoned many of your previous goals, hobbies, or interests in order to clear up your schedule to do more for others? This neglect of self is one of the main reasons people pleasers feel guilt and resentment. You probably know that you should attend to your own needs, but you don't know how. You had a nice spa day planned for yourself, but then you heard that a friend was going through a tough time, so you forward your gift certificate to the spa to her instead. This is a clear sign of neglecting yourself for others. Recognize when you go out of your way to avoid conflict. Because of your fear of being rejected by those around you, you strive to minimize conflict at all costs. Early on, you came to believe that saying no or stating a difference of opinion was divisive, so you refrain from doing so. You are desperate to keep your relationships intact, and even at the cost of keeping your mouth shut on issues that are important to you. Like, you might not eat Thai food, but all your friends want to try this new Thai restaurant. You do not share your preference and go along. You tell your friends you are not hungry at the restaurant to not make them worry. You're secretly starving, but you don't want to make a fuss. Know that people pleasers may stay in abusive relationships. Thinking that you owe others or believing that it's selfish to listen to your own inner desires can be detrimental. Years of people pleasing may lead you to forget that you have any rights as a person. When and if you do speak out or express your desires, negative consequences occur. So you stay silent and accept maltreatment or even abuse. Fearing rejection and abandonment can cause people pleasers to remain in unhealthy relationships far longer than they should. Consider that your girlfriend flakes on plans at the last minute, insults you in front of others, and spends her money and your money on lavish gifts. You might dislike this treatment, but worry that if you speak up, she will leave. It's important for you to develop healthier relational habits. Develop self acceptance, and self love first. When you learn to accept yourself, you remove the burden of needing someone else to accept you. The key to overcoming the negative habit of people pleasing is to develop your own self worth. When you feel good about yourself, you are less likely to seek validation from others. It's important. You could repeat a mantra such as, I am at peace with who I am. I do not require others to accept me for me to accept myself. There are other ways for you to accept yourself. Like you could make a list of your positive traits and post them on a mirror or in the visor of your car and read them aloud when you need a lift. You could also challenge yourself to practice self care regularly. Like select 2 to 3 things you can do for yourself each day that you want to enjoy something. This could be eating a healthy meal, getting some exercise, taking a relaxing bath, going for a walk outdoors, or listening to your favorite musician, any number of things. Just identify your own personal values. Take the time to reflect upon your personal beliefs, opinions, morals, and values. Consider what it is you would like to gain when you do things for others and for yourself. Think about what you are comfortable or not comfortable with when you help other people. Once you figure out exactly who you are and what matters the most to you, you can take the opportunity to communicate this to others. Like you may prefer to have dinner time with like family in peace without any disruptive phone calls from outside friends or family. It's important to remain authentic to yourself. Take the time to consider your own desires and needs before agreeing to requests from others. It's okay for you not to want to do something that someone else has asked of you. When you become hyper focused and vigilant about pleasing others and the impact it has on those you help, you are putting your authentic self on hold. Learn to say no. This is an issue for many people. You have a choice of what you spend your day doing. Never forget that. If a friend or family member makes a request, it is entirely up to you to accept or not accept. Sometimes people pleasers fall into the frame of thinking that they are powerless. Reclaim your power and start declining favors that you don't want to do. I know this could be a challenge for many of you, but you might have to be brave. To help you learn how and when to say no, think about your priorities in life. If family, health, and financial stability are most important to you, you might decline requests if they do not align with your priorities. Say no with your head held high and don't provide an excessive excuse or explanation. Simply say no, thank you, or I don't have time in my schedule. Remember, you are putting your time and energy where it counts. When you say no, back into your own health, interests, and goals, it is reaffirming that you have power. If it helps, make it a policy. Your no can seem less about the person if you tailor it to a limit you have previously set. Like you might say, no, I have a personal rule about never lending large sums of money to family or friends. There, you just set a limit. Set limits in relationships. This is so important. Your personal boundaries have been left at the door when you give in to people pleasing behaviors. Spend some time thinking about the ways you felt violated or used by people in your life. These situations could have occurred on purpose or inadvertently. Then work to set new limits so that you are able to have healthy, full relationships without being a doormat. Write down these situations, what happened and who was involved, and then use these boundary violations to help you redefine limits in your relationships. Like perhaps a friend asked you for a favor at the last minute, which left you feeling stressed and overwhelmed. You could set a personal limit that if others needed your help, they need to give you advance notice. Come up with your limits relating to other situations that you don't want to have happen again and again. And exploitative relationships. Sometimes, no matter how firm your personal boundaries, people will try to cross them. In fact, some people seem to have a knack for sniffing out people pleasers and exploiting them. If you have friends or loved ones who make it their business to use your kindness for their gain and consistently push your limits, get some distance. Slowly stop answering the calls or emails of old friends who abuse your kind hearted nature. You don't have to supply an explanation, just stop responding. If this person is closer to you, minimize the amount of time you spend with them. You can even let them know by saying, I love you, Rita, but I have difficulty maintaining my personal boundaries with you. I need some space. Get help. Being a people pleaser is a deeply ingrained behavioral style that can be challenging to overcome. If you are having difficulty asserting yourself and constantly feel stressed by your relationships, see a professional. A mental health therapist can help you find the cause for this behavior and learn effective skills to start living a healthy emotional life, right? There are research papers out there that you can read to help your situation, right? Call therapists in your area, arrange an in-person meeting. Choose your therapist based on which one has experience with your issue and with whom you feel most comfortable. Now, we've talked about people pleasers. In order for you to break the cycle of people pleasing, it's going to be risk taking for a number of people, right? You're going to have to learn to say no. You're going to have to learn how to say no, not just no. Sometimes you're going to have to ease your way into it, but you have to get there. You have to set some boundaries. It doesn't feel good. And it starts to get agitated. And sometimes it builds up in you where you just react or you get stressed out and you just explode on the person and you rant and you rave. And it's because you start blaming yourself for being in that position and you blame others and you start wilding out. Well, you don't want to really do that. So you have to take small steps and boom, set your boundaries. And sometimes you're going to have to write it out. Get a piece of paper, a pencil, or a journal, a diary, and write down incidents with your friends and family that tend to agitate you. And start to write in how you can take steps to change this behavior or stop being a doormat. You have the power to do it. You have to choose and decide. You don't want to flip flop all the time, going back and forth. You need to make concrete decisions and stick with them. Now, remember, many of us are people pleasers. You might not be a people pleaser all the time, but many of us get caught in the cycle of people pleasing. And it's okay because you can step out of it and regain some more power in your life. Give yourself a break. It's a big stress reliever to break the cycle of people pleasing. You can choose when you want to. And remember, it's so easy for others to take advantage of you when you start people pleasing. So, I want you to be like the wise old bird and spread the word and take care of yourself, people.